Hey there, Jason here. Today we're going to be taking a look at my car. It is a 1999 Pontiac Trans Am. I'm going to be putting it up for sale and just wanted to give a quick video walkthrough of the exterior and the interior, point out some things that need to be done to it still, and point out the things that have been done to it. And at the end we'll fire it up and you can hear it run. The car runs fantastic. It's a blast to drive. I've had it since 2007. It's a car I wanted for a really long time, and I bought it back then. Spent about 12 grand on it. It had 70,000 miles on it. We're about 150, like I said before now. No major problems at all. I haven't driven it hard at all. I've never raced it. No drag racing, no street racing. In fact, I've never even gotten it over, I'm pretty sure I've never broken 100 miles an hour. So I've babied it quite a bit, taking really good care of it, but just time to move on, time for something else. I've had it for 12 years. And to do everything I really want to do to it, you know, it would just cost a lot of money and take a lot of time, and I think it's just time for a new ride. So we'll take a look at the exterior, the interior. We'll hear it fired up, point out some things that are wrong with it and some things that are good with it. And I'll be putting it up for sale for $3,500. It's pretty fair for this car considering the condition that it's in. It's not perfect by any means. It does need some things. Luckily, most of it's easy stuff. I would love to work on it myself and keep it, but where I live and I have no garage, and I don't have the time for it. So somebody who likes these cars will have a blast working on it and get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So let me flip the camera around and we'll show you the car. Okay, so here's the car from the front. The first most obvious glaring issue is that this headlight is stuck in the up position. I don't think anything's wrong with the motor, the headlight motor. I do think that it was maybe improperly installed by the person who last worked on it. That side has no issues. What I do want to point out is there's some notorious problems with these cars, and the headlights are one of them. General Motors put a plastic gear in the headlight motor, and they wear out over time. So I bought the brass gears. They're an aftermarket upgrade. They'll last a really, really long time. So both motors have the brass gears in them. Worst case scenario, if the motor of this headlight is bad, they're about $125. I would take it apart, take out the plastic gear, put the brass gear from this motor in, and then you'll have a headlight motor that'll last you a really long time. On the front end, you'll see that the license plate filler is missing. I actually do have that in the house in black, so it is not missing. It's just not on right now. The fog lights are new. The factory ones were not bright at all. These are brand new, aftermarket. The daytime running lamps are brand new. The lenses are brand new, and there's some switchback LEDs in there that are brand new. The paint on the car is not in great shape. It definitely is probably due for a repaint. Like I said, it is a 1999. It's been in the sun for a lot of its life, and the hood's really starting to show. There's some problems with the clear coat as we walk around the car. So, you know, it's not in horrible shape by any means. I mean, from far away it doesn't look that bad, but you get close and you can start to see some of these little defects and stuff. But the body itself is straight. That's the important part. This is all just cosmetic stuff. The wheels are from a Corvette C6. You know, they're not perfect. There's couple scuffs and scratches and whatnot. Plenty of videos out there that show you how to fix that if you want to try it yourself. And there's a million wheel repair places out there that'll fix those scratches. The tires are 245/40/18 up front. They're in awesome shape. The rear tires are 285/35/19. Those are in great shape as well. And the wheels are pretty clean. They just have some scratches and some scuffs. More of that clear coat I was telling you about. The antenna, the gear in it is stripped out, so when it goes up and down it makes a horrible grinding sound. I barely listen to the radio in the car, so I unplugged it, so it does stay down all the time, and that'll have to be replaced. What a lot of people do is there's an aftermarket antenna called a stubby antenna. It's a little rubber antenna that sits there. It does a pretty good job for most people. On the back bumper here, you got a little scratch right there. That's just the paint, just the surface. Same here. What happened here is I backed up into a really thin, it was that steel wiring that acts as a support for like a telephone pole. So it was a really thin, tight steel wire that I backed into. No big deal. Borla catback exhaust, it sounds awesome. We'll hear that in a little bit. The sticker here is faded. Those are really easy to find. They're everywhere. You can get them in different colors if you want. You might notice that the right or the passenger side taillight is kind of dark compared to this one. Your eyes are not playing tricks on you. That is exactly what's happening here. These cars are notorious for the taillights to fill up with water. The water stays in there and discolors the taillight. These taillights can be found for about $150 a side. The passenger side one needs to be replaced. The driver's side one is still in good condition. I did drill some holes in it to let the water drain out to hopefully slow down the discoloration, but it did happen. The reverse lights are super bright LED reverse lights. They're pretty cool. They're pretty bright. I kind of had to do that because at one point the car had 5% tint on the back window, which looked great, but it was almost impossible to see out of. That brings up another point. The tint will have to be redone on this car. I was recently going to take it to a tint shop and at least have them get off all the old tint, but I just haven't had the time to do it. But it will need to be retinted. The taillight, we kind of covered that. As far as the exterior goes, that's about it. For all the little things, there's a couple things I wouldn't say are little, but are definitely not major. I do want to point out, these cars are notorious for the sail top here, for this panel to like bubble up and look really grody. This one's actually not bubbling. There's a couple little nicks in it, but it's not bubbling at all. It's still smooth if you rub your hand over it. These cars are notorious for that piece to bubble, and they're pain in the butt to replace, but it can be done. There are lots of videos on YouTube on how to do it. There is an aftermarket carbon fiber panel that I had considered replacing it with if it ever did bubble, but it never bubbled, so I think I may have gotten lucky on that. The mirror here, this is actually the second one that I put on this car. I don't know what's going on here, why this car has gone through 2 mirrors, but something is breaking in here and making it kind of flop away here. Not the end of the world. Those mirrors can be found for less than $50, Craigslist, eBay, and what have you. I did peel the body trim off this side. I like the way it looks. It's a lot smoother look. I did not do that on the other side, so you would want to do that on the other side to make sure that both sides match. It's just a matter of a heat gun or a hair dryer and heating it up and peeling it off. It's actually quite simple. Okay, now for the most major thing with the 2 major things with the body, maybe not even major, just 2 things that are not minor. So several years ago, my girlfriend took the car to work, and she was parked in an underground parking garage. And in the underground parking garage were these gigantic columns made out of concrete. She was parked right next to one. She backs out of the parking space, cuts the wheel too quickly, and ends up smushing the car here up against one of the panels, or up against one of the columns. Now luckily it's not structural damage. The car didn't get hit by another car or didn't get smashed in or anything like that. It just kind of got pushed in. So everything under there is in good shape. The frame's okay, none of that's a worry at all. The problem is this fender cracked and the front bumper cracked. So I found a silver fender, had that painted black. I found a red bumper, had that painted black. And the person who put these pieces back on for me left a gap right here. So I don't know what's going on underneath here. You know, maybe it's just a matter of getting things lined up better. But that is something that will have to be solved if you want the body to be perfect. The most major thing on this car, and it's really not even that big of a deal, when you open the driver's side door, you'll notice right away that it kind of drops. And there's a lot of, I don't know if I can get this on video, but as I grab the handle and yank up and down, the door moves a lot. And what happens on these cars, because these doors are so heavy, is the door itself cracks in here, and where the door hinge meets the door itself, there's a big crack right here, and it causes the door to sag. See, I thought I was clever and was going to replace the latch itself, and that didn't do it. Or the hinge itself rather, and that didn't help. Come to find out that this is cracked. So when you close the door, you have to not hold the handle up like this, like you're opening the door, but if you get your hand kind of under there and lift up while you close the door, it'll close the way it's supposed to close. If you don't lift up on the door, you'll bang there, this part of the door. See where it's nicked up there? That'll bang into these 2 pieces right here. And you can see that over the years, they've been banged into a couple times. Now, the good news, doors are about $125. I've seen them all the time. Just never got around to replacing it because I'm sort of a purist and I didn't want to mess with all these VIN numbers, and I wanted everything to be as pure to the original car as possible, so I never got around to replacing the door. Now, the other thing that people have done on the forums is they'll take the door off and they will re-fiberglass and put a steel plate in there and just reinforce the heck out of it, and the door fits and closes like no problem, like it did from the factory. So it really just depends on how much work you want to put into it, how much time you want to put into it. Swapping out the door is probably the easiest thing to do. But again, you'll have mismatches on your VIN numbers on the sticker there inside the door. That's why I didn't want to do it. Okay, that's it for the body and the exterior. Not bad, but it does need a little bit of attention. It actually does clean up pretty well. You know, from far away, you probably wouldn't see all the defects, and it's a pretty nice looking car until you get really close to it, and that's when you can start to notice where it needs paint and the clear coat's bubbling and things like that. So we'll move on to the interior now. These door panels, you may or may not know, they always crack right here. This one did crack. I threw that panel away and I bought a new one. It was about $150 a few years ago. Luckily I found one that matched in gray, no big deal. That has been resolved. Also, this piece, this plastic piece that holds the window switches and door lock switch, that broke, that has been replaced, and that is good to go now. We've got a set of Polk Audio 6.5-inch component speakers in the doors, and the crossovers mounted inside the door, right around here somewhere on the inside part of the door. These doors were professionally dynamated, which was another reason why I wanted to keep the original door, but that also probably had something to do with the weight. But I don't know, because a lot of people report on these cars that the doors sag, and they don't even have dynamat on the doors, so I think it just happens naturally and I got lucky. Overall, the interior is in pretty good shape. There's some things that are notorious with these cars, and those will be easy to spot, like the torn seat. I've been quoted about $100 to $150 from a few different places to redo the seat and get it to match. Also fixing this foam, making sure that's okay again. Under $200, we'll say. The dash pad has cracked, like every other F-body car, so I did replace it with the $40 black piece of carpet that matches the car. The passenger side's in really good shape. That seat looks like it's barely been sat in. The carpets are all in good shape. The back's in good shape. The interior of this car is in pretty good shape. Alpine stereo from about 2005 or 6. Sometimes it plays CDs, sometimes it doesn't. That's something that you would want to address. A new deck these days are really inexpensive. You can always go back to factory if you wanted to. The passenger side window motor is working properly. It's never been replaced at this factory, but it is working properly. Never had an issue with that one. On this side though, the driver's side, the window motor has been replaced. That's a brand new motor in there. As far as the interior goes, that's really about it. It's in pretty good shape, and there's really not anything to point out, flaws or you know, other than the obvious things like the dash pad, upper dash pad, and the seat. You know, for less than $600, you could have that seat repaired. You could have a new dash pad. And the interior on this car would be really close to perfect, other than the tint and the other little things. The headliner isn't sagging quite yet, but it's close. I got a quote to fix the headliner, about $150 from an upholstery shop here in town. I do not have the covers for the T-tops. I'm not sure where those might be. They were not in the car. They were not in the car when I bought the car. I do have an extra set of T-tops as well that will come with the car. And while I'm mentioning things like that, the passenger side fender, when I bought that fender, I bought that one as well. So if you ever have an issue with your passenger side fender, I'll be able to provide you with a backup just in case. The windshield wipers, they work just fine. They do need new blades. These ones are on their way out, but the sprayer itself won't spray up onto the windshield all the way. I think the nozzles are just clogged because it kind of trickles out. So I think if you take a toothbrush and some solvent, that might be a really easy fix. Not the end of the world. Okay, so let's move on to the back of the car. A couple things to point out here, not much though. I can't remember which one, but one of these hydraulic arms has been replaced. And I do have the second one that came as the pair. So I have one of these is brand new, and I have another one that's brand new as well. So if the old one ever goes, you'll have it. No big deal. Whoever had the car before me had a stereo in it, aftermarket stereo, so there's a remote wire down here for an amplifier. Here's the harness for the 10-disc CD changer that was factory in this car. Obviously it's been removed because it goes right there. My plan was to put like a JL 10-inch stealth box in here or something. You know, it's just little things like this. These plastic screws are kind of gnarled up and stuff. That panel that opens and closes and covers the T-top well when you open and close the hatch lid, that's not here. I don't know where that's at. It was not with the car when I bought it. The T-top well is totally fine. You know, the T-top holders are in there. The carpet back here is in pretty good shape. I can fit a set of golf clubs in here as long as I fold down that back seat. I can fit golf clubs in here, no problem. Overall, the back of the car is in pretty good shape. I mean, there's some scratches and stuff in the plastic, but that's all stuff that can be sorted out, no problem, for somebody with some time at least. Go over to the passenger side real quick just to show you. Again, there's a scrape in the tint, but overall, the passenger side's in great shape. The door panel's pristine. The seat looks brand new, and the back seats on this side are probably never been sat in, not by anybody, not by me at least. I may have had somebody back there at some point, but few and far between. There is an aux cord, by the way, on that Alpine stereo. There's an aux cord I installed. That's all good to go. Okay, now let's open up the hood and start the car. We'll go over everything under here. Okay, so here's under the hood. It's a little dusty. About 3 or 4 times a year I'll go through there with a cloth and at least clean all the dust off. It hasn't had a deep cleaning in some years, but overall it's in pretty good shape, you know, considering. Okay, first things first, aftermarket intake. It complements the Borla exhaust really well. Car sounds great. Battery is brand new. The entire AC system, from the compressor to, I mean, just everything in the AC is new. The air is ice cold. The heat's nice and hot. The harmonic balancer is new. The water pump is new. The alternator's new. Other than that, there really hasn't been anything major under here at all. Like I said, there is a rear main oil leak, rear main seal oil leak. You can definitely see oil when you look up under the car. It's kind of caked on to some of the steering rack and some of the suspension components. So it'll take a good cleaning, and it'll take probably a weekend for somebody to do it yourself or to replace that rear main seal. I got a quote for about $1,600 to do it at a auto repair shop. One thing I always wanted to do, just never got around to it. I wanted to do that wire mod where you hide these wires and stuff. Just never got around to it. One thing I do want to point out too. Something that happens with these cars a lot is the body control module, the computer that runs all the electronics in the car. It's over in the passenger in that area. And what happens in these cars is over time, the solder joints on the board of the BCM break. So you'll have all these weird intermittent electrical problems, like your radio will just turn off and on for no reason. Your windows won't go up and down all of a sudden for no reason. So I tracked that problem down a couple years ago. I figured out what it was, and the BCM has been resoldered, so all the electrical components in this car work as intended. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you would need to know as a buyer for this car. I think I mentioned the harmonic balancer. I mentioned the water pump. Suspension. Okay, the brakes are in great shape. I wouldn't worry about the brakes for a while. The suspension, you will need to replace the shocks. My plan for this car was to do a full BMR, shocks, springs, upper lower control arms, sway bars, subframe connectors. I had a whole plan for a BMR suspension and just never got around to it. So shocks will need to be done right away. There are some things like ball joints, tie rod ends, which I think the tie rod ends on the front are I think it's definitely time for those to go. But again, the thing about this car is, a lot of the major things and a lot of the little pain in the butt things that are notorious on these cars, I've done most of that already. Now it's just a medium-sized list of little things. And if somebody has the time and the tools and the knowledge and the passion, This can be an excellent car for somebody. And again, like I said before, I'd love to keep it and do all this stuff myself, but I mean, you guys see where I live. I have no garage, and most importantly, I have no time. So I hate to sell it, but it's been a great car, and you know, it's just time to move on. Last but not least, the car does have a professionally installed Viper two-way communicator auto theft system. Basically, I can start the car from the remote. I can sometimes open the hatch with the aux button here. It sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, opening the hatch. But the auto start works 100% of the time. Never had a problem with it. The alarm is nice because if you're inside your house sleeping and the alarm goes off, this thing will start vibrating and letting you know the alarm's going off. So it's two-way communication. I always enjoy that. But it's a great alarm, and the auto start's a must-have in Florida. So to start the car, we're going to unlock it just with the unlock button, and to start the car is this middle button on the side panel. I'm going to press and hold that. Oh, the remote says it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we have to figure out how to program it to make it give it the right time if you want the right time. All right, here she is running. It had a full tune-up a couple years ago, new belts, coolant flush. You know, it had full maintenance a while ago. Not that many. It was a little while ago in time, but not that long ago in miles. Like I said, I don't drive this car much. So, you know, it's a great running car. It got me back and forth to Minneapolis. I've taken it to Tallahassee several times. I've taken it to Miami, you know, throughout the years that I've owned it. I've taken it a few different places, and it's been great. Never had it break down on me. Nothing like that. It's been solid. Oh, I'm sorry. It did break down on me one time. And this is actually something important to point out here. The fuel pump died. Oh. Forgot to disarm it. So the fuel pump died on this car, which is fairly common. It happens. Now, what some people will do is they'll cut out part of the metal right here to get to the fuel pump. And I'm not a big fan of that. Being a purist, I don't want to hack the car up if I can help it. So the guy who did the fuel pump for me actually did pull the tank out and did it the right way. So the fuel pump is new. The fuel filter's new. I'll tell you what, guys, after I got that fuel pump and fuel filter replaced, it felt like a brand new car again. It was, I mean, that fuel pump must have been really old, or that filter must have been really clogged, because it felt like I was driving a brand new car, a different car at least. So let's hear it start up so you can hear the Borla exhaust, and I think that'll wrap it up. Here we go. So yeah, it sounds good. It's super fun to drive. I hate to see it go, but it's time. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll put my email address down in the description if you have any questions about the car. Again, I'm asking $3,500 for it. 99 Trans Am, automatic transmission. Shifts great, drives nice and straight. I just got a decent sized list of little things that needs to be done to it, but nothing.